In today's episode, I am talking with Robyn Carpenter, aka the Goddess of Joy. Robyn has been a spiritual coach for quite a long time, about 15 years, and she brings with her so much experience and wisdom, especially around centering yourself in what feels like the most insane times that we're living in. So if you're feeling a little out of balance based on everything that's going on in the world around us right now, please just take a minute to listen to this episode. You're going to feel so much better after hearing Robyn's beautiful, soothing voice and all of her lovely advice. So enjoy my interview with Robyn Carpenter. Welcome to Seekers and Shifters, where we talk to the world's foremost experts in personal growth and development and ask them everything we really want to know. Hi, Robyn.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Robyn Carpenter Briscoe. I'm a licensed spiritual practitioner and a spiritual life coach. I'm the author of the book, Let's Get Stoned, Using Stones and Crystals to Create a Life That Rocks. I am a wife, a sister, a daughter, a friend, and I have recently been named the Wanderlust Queen of Queer Adventures for Outfront Magazine.
Fantastic. We're so happy to have you here today. And I really want to start by just bringing up, like, there's a lot of changes going on in the world right now. It feels like, I don't know about you, but to me, it feels like things are changing really, really fast. We've got AI coming. We've got a lot of political unrest. It's the age of Aquarius, and like all kinds of crazy shit is going down all of a sudden. How do you stay centered yourself, and how are you guiding the people you work with to stay centered through all of this change?
I'm so glad you asked. Meditation. That is going to be my answer, is the answer that people don't want to hear. It is the, oh, come on, don't give me that hoo-ha. You know, I literally got in a heated discussion with a very dear friend of mine the other day because she had spent like the first 15 minutes of us hanging out together enumerating her fears and anger and all the things. And because she was my friend, I was like, okay, you need to shut the fuck up now. Actually, I would probably say that to a client as well. Like pretty much my clients know that if I'm saying it, it's in love, right? It's also like, we need to stop. You know, I could make sometimes just clap real loud too. But the whole point is everything that had been coming out of her mouth were all her fears. Like those things hadn't happened yet, right? Like everything that she was saying, and this could happen, and then this could happen, and I don't have this, and blah, all the things, right? And what I was saying to her was, except those things haven't happened. And so like literally what you're doing right now is making yourself crazy, you know? And I had a client text me over the holidays and tell me how powerful the affirmation meditation like practice that she was doing was helping her keep from being triggered. She was in the middle of like holiday family stuff, and she wasn't being triggered because she was using the tools that we had created. So everybody always, is always like, oh yeah, blah, blah, meditation. And, there's the saying, everybody should meditate for 5 minutes a day. And if you don't have 5 minutes to meditate, then you need to meditate for 30. Because, it's like, if you really can't get yourself together enough to take 5 minutes for meditation, then you are way beyond and really just need to sit down. I teach a class called Mindfulness, Mindset, and Meditation. And those are the things that I spent a lot of time kind of reiterating to people. I have another class called 10 Steps to Personal Peace. So for me, everything is about process and practice, because they're the only things that you have, that, especially if they're yours, right? Like if these are processes and practices that you've created, then they are yours to be able to do at any given time, no matter what's going on around you. You can literally always shut your eyes and just start, right? I travel a lot. And so I spent a lot of time in airports, a lot of times in weird middle seats. I spent a lot of time with people who are not my people, right? Like I am continually surrounded. Security alone, I think there should be like a 5-minute meditation window once you've gone through security before you go anywhere else. Because I think the vibrations from all of that equipment sets the air on edge, right? And then everybody's going through and they're late for the thing, and the kids are this, and I have a this, and I'm freaked out, and I've never met, all the things. And people pick up all that, and then they take it with them. So I spend a lot of time shutting out, like doing binaural music, I have great apps. I listen to a lot of stuff. I have meditations that I've recorded that I'll listen to. At any given time, I'm always looking for ways to make sure that I have personal well-being, right? And it's not that I don't know what things are going on in the world, and it's not that I am not paying attention to the things that are going on in the world. It's that I still have to, I'm the only one that can regulate me, right? Like it's not, if I'm focusing all on that, then who's going to take care of me? So I have to do that. I do meditate 30 minutes a day, but I break it up into 10 minutes at a time, 10 minutes and 10 seconds, actually. So I do a thing. And then when I take a break, when it's time for lunch or whatever, I've taken a break in the middle of my day, I do it. And then I end my day that way, so that it's me coming back to myself, me coming back to alignment always, because I'm the only one that can do it.
Absolutely. And we see so many people, I'm sure you see many of the people you work with. I see many of the people I work with. I work with entrepreneurs, they're doers. They are high achievers and they are highly dissociative. And their answer to any type of stress is to do more, do it harder, do it faster, dig in. And I can appreciate that. It makes sense because for a lot of these people, doing it more, doing it harder, doing it faster did help them get to a certain level in their life, a certain level in their business, a certain level in their career. And then we get to a level where what got you here isn't going to get you there. And all of a sudden, the doing more and the doing it harder and the doing it faster actually can halt your progress, or it can make things worse in terms of your business results, in terms of how you're impacting your family, your staff, and certainly in terms of your own health, peace, and happiness. And so when you're working with your clients, how do you start to flip that switch for them from, oh, I need to do more, do it harder, do it faster, to, okay, I need to stop. I love your clap, stop, breathe, receive, allow. How do you talk them into it?
Well, what's funny is I've now been doing this for about 15 years. I've been a coach for about 15 years. I keep up, I keep getting more blah blahs and certifications and licenses and on the things, right? And what happens is my clients recognize that, as we're always saying, if we are in unity and literally we are all one, then that means when you see me doing things or I see you doing things, there's really only one of us doing these things. So I see you already, right? I see you because I look in the mirror. So I think that first, my clients understand that it's coming from a full and complete understanding of where they are without judgment. So it allows them to not receive things that I say to them as judgment, right? Like, so it's not like, so then because they're all, I predominantly work with women, I've had like one male client, but mostly it's all women. And so essentially I call them my good girls, right? Like they all have good girl syndrome. They're all doing the thing. And, they're just like, look at me. And, and I had a client, I always say you could really tell that they were a Leo, because every time you gave them a compliment, it was like, they were like a cat, like that you could like pet them, they were like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. And I'm like, yes. So I love seeing that. But what it was it's like, okay, but I need you to understand that when I'm saying a thing, this is really because I see you and love you. So I think that simply by the act of someone deciding that they want to work with me is essentially the beginning of them knowing that things are changing, because nothing is going to be the same. And in fact, when I start with a client, the agreement that we sign, one of the things it says is, I know that simply by starting this, that things are never going to be the same. Like it's like, and then we do this assessment, a consciousness assessment, to help them really understand what they believe about themselves and their life and all the things. So they're already like, oh yeah, because there's this like coming of selfness that happens simply by doing this, so they can really understand what they believe, how that sounds, right? Like when they really have to say it, be truthful, and is that really the direction that you want to be going? Does that sound like something that you want to keep being, right? Like is it this, or if it's not this anymore, that worked, as you said, that worked to get you here, and now you're understanding it worked ish, right? Like it worked in one very specific direction.
Right.
And then there was all this other stuff that maybe wasn't working so great, and maybe you would like those things to be working better. So and I always tell them, I'm like, work-life balance is a lie. That's not a thing. It's about integration. Balance is always a lie. It's always about integration, because it's really just it's about being fluid and accepting that regiments are probably not, while they feel safe for a lot of people, like I have a lot of clients who love lists and love supposed tos and love rules, because then they know that they're doing the right thing. And I, being the Gemini that I am, I'm like, fuck that shit. Woo! No rules. What rules? Why? That's just ridiculous. Those are suggestions. And I'll believe you if it feels good. So it's good because I have the ability to be able to see other people's perspectives while also handing it back to them and saying, well, there's another way to think about it, right? And that, I think that all of that, as we go into it, that's really how they're able to accept the shifts that have to happen. Don't get me wrong, like they don't like them, like they're not like, woo, this is awesome, I'm so glad we're changing. It's a lot of like, well, my clients are really smart, they have doctorates and things, so generally speaking, they rely heavily on the fact that they know things, right? And so they have this, what they feel is a lot of self-awareness. And then I help them become aware of other parts of themselves that is like it's disconcerting. And it's a lot of being honest with yourself, which is one thing that people is not their favorite thing. And then it's being honest with yourself literally in front of somebody, namely me, right? And the reason you have to be honest with yourself is because I'm making you say shit out loud. So, I like ask you a direct question that you then have to answer the question, and you're like, well, I didn't really want to talk about that, so it's a journey that I'm always willing to go on with people, and I love the adventure of helping people create their favorite life.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you brought up that this is in your paperwork in the beginning. As coaches, and especially, and there are newbie coaches that listen to this show and are just starting their practices. And for people that are just starting a business, it can feel like, oh, I need to take anybody. I need to take whatever client will work with me or whatever, right? And they get in that scarcity. And after a while, you realize, oh, my life is miserable if I just take anybody. Like I need to set some boundaries here around who I'm going to take. In fact, for my own business, that was the major thing that just blew it up in the first place. That's one of the things that I coach my entrepreneur clients through that blows their business up, is like, we need to set standards and boundaries for who the clients will be. If I only work with clients that I love, if I only work with clients that are excited to work with me, if I only work with clients that are ready to change their life, then I'm excited to show up every day. I show up my best, they get better results. It's a whole upward spiral. And so I love the boundary of, look, you are accepting that things are going to be different. You are accepting that you are on a growth journey, a transformation journey. You are attesting to the fact that you want that. And you are attesting to the fact that you understand that this may not be comfortable at times, because a lot of growth comes out of discomfort. And so I need to set that expectation up front. And if you sign that paper, cool, we're good to go.
Then we're there, right? Well, and it's important because it's, again, being truthful with self, right? Like being really honest. Like, generally speaking, my clients are people who are like, I think I need to work with you, right? Like, this is what they say, and I'm like, well, if you think so, then probably so. And then we sit down and I go, well, why do you think that? And then, we spend 30 minutes just kind of talking about like why they think they're supposed to work with me. And then we do the assessment, right? Like, so anybody can do the assessment. They don't even have to be a client of mine. They can just like pay them, the money, and then we do that, and it helps you go, and then you kind of go, right? Or you can then work with me or take classes or whatever. But the thing about having that beginningness is something that I learned, right? Like, literally, as I said, I've been doing this for 15 years as a spiritual life coach. Prior to that, I was a small business coach that was helping. But what was funny was I was helping them understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, not about how to run your business, right? I'm always from the inside part, it's like, well, what does it mean? Because people had these businesses that they never took a vacation, like, it's like, well, what happens when you go on vacation? And they're like, oh, I haven't had a vacation since I opened my doors. I was like, oh, we have to. So, and now as someone who runs a business from inside my house or wherever I happen to be at the time, there are my own things that I have to set up for myself. I have to be honest with myself. Like, are you doing work all the time? Like, you have your phone in your hand again, are you neglecting your spouse? Have you, I always have to, my body tells me when I'm not being, like, generally once a year, I'll get some sort of something that is just, my body is like, and I'm done. And it shuts down completely. And then I have to lie down, and I just have to lie there. And then I have to go, And then I spend all the time that I'm lying there watching like HGTV or something like that. And then, or the Hallmark Channel. And then saying, okay, so what have I been doing that got me here? Right. It becomes the like, okay, so like the month of July last year, I got shingles, and then right after that was done, I broke out in hives.
Oh my gosh.
So my whole body was
like,
just
what
like,
are you trying to tell me? Like, obviously you want something.
okay, holy crap. It was so bad when I got the hives. I was so swollen that I woke up one morning, and I call her my husband. She looked at me and she was so concerned that she left the room and called the nurse line because she was freaked out because I was so, and I was like, she was like, how are you breathing? And I was like, okay, I'm good. Because it didn't have anything to do with my breathing. I could feel everything under my skin. I had this kind of phoenix moment in July last year where everything just burned away. My whole body was on fire. And I was feeling very much like I was shedding a lot of whatever was going on. So I came out of it feeling less freaked out about a lot of things. And I had a lot of stress last year. Like, I started a nonprofit, right? Like, so that alone was, yeah. This is what I can say about that. I am an experiential learner.
Yes, game recognized game.
Everyone that is not the experience, that is not how everybody else learns. And when you carry people along with you as you're learning as you go, it can be an experience that will be a lot less comfortable than you expected it to be.
100%. 100%. So there's two levels, right? One level is I'm tired, my body is sitting me down, and I'm having an experience that is going to maybe just give me a little more empathy for stuff other people are going through down the line or whatever. And then another level is, oh, there's like a spiritual upgrade going on. Like you said, I'm shedding my skin, but some old stuff is burning away. Some new stuff is coming in. Did you come out of that experience feeling like, oh, here's what came in for me and here's what's new and here's the upgrade I got? Like what's the new you?
Well, what was funny was once I had it, I realized how run down I had been feeling, like how I was really like slowing down, like I had been feeling it and been pushing through it and pushing past it, just like we had talked about, where it's like you just keep powering through it. And then my body's like, no, you absolutely can't, because there's stuff you need to be paying attention to and you're not paying attention. And so what I realized was, well, one, I was planning a conference that couldn't happen. And at that time that I was having these hives and all, that was literally the moment when the original conference date. And so there was probably just like all of this like old whatever was going on that was just like, that I had been carrying just leading up to that time. Right. Like, so there was some of that I was really letting go of. But then I got this like realization that I was completely out of balance, and I know I said there's no such thing as balance, but but when you're out of balance, right? Like it's like you can't create balance, but what you can do is feel when you are out of balance, So I was like, wow, my business had been suffering. At one point, my spouse said to me, "This is the most stressed out I have ever seen you ever." And that included when I used to be the president of the board for a history museum. So like, she's like, you are very stressed out right now. And I was like, I don't know what to do. But what I also realized was I remembered all the things I hadn't been doing. And it was the things that I teach my clients. I hadn't been doing my yoga. My diet was in the toilet. I hadn't been, meditating. I hadn't been, or I had been just like dialing it in, right? I called myself meditating, but really I was like doing my list for the morning. And it was really like, not actual meditation. It was bullshit. Like I was sitting still, right? I wasn't, it didn't mean I was holding space, So it made me be extraordinarily honest with myself in ways that I was like, oh, wow. And also, I had to own my journey to getting to that place, right? And it's like, okay, so this isn't working. What have you been not paying attention to, or what have you been carrying that is just, and I was, after that time, I spent a lot of time being really open and communicative with a lot of people that I had been trying to be perfect in front of. And they were all like, you're awesome. It was great. You're doing the thing. You go, girl. We got you. Oh, I overstand and all the things, right? Like they were just, it was a lot of support. And I also realized going into like carrying it through to the end of the year that there was somebody in my life that that I really thought that I was accepting coaching from in a way that I was experiencing it one way and not necessarily seeing it from the fear that they were carrying about things that then they were giving to me, right? Like, so I was all like trying to live up to an expectation of someone else's fear, which I was internalizing because they were coaching me through the thing. Like, so I was having all of this. But what was great about it was it brought me back to my practice. It brought me right back to meditation. It brought me right back to that. Okay, what are you not doing that works for you? And boop, yoga, boop, back to the thing, boop, back to the mindfulness is huge. That mindfulness piece, like really sitting and checking in. That's what I do in the morning. Okay, what's going on with your body today? What are you feeling like? What's happened overnight that you need to pay attention to? And how are you feeling before you're, about getting up right now, right? Because there are some days when I'm like, I am feeling like I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to get up right now. And then I have to ask myself why, right? Like, why do you want? Because you were traveling and your body needs more rest, or because you have a hard conversation you need to have today and you're not ready to blah, blah, blah. Or, but it's the how are you feeling? And then asking myself the why. And I hadn't been doing any of those things. That was a very
Oh
long
yeah, and
answer.
just for people watching, listening, right? Like coaches have our practices and we sometimes get busy too and we sometimes ignore those practices and stop doing them and then we figure out about a week or a week and a half later like, oh shit, I should probably go back to that because I don't feel so good.
Yes.
I'm at the point where ritual has taken over like half my life because I just feel so much better. I mean, like you should see the pile of supplements that I take in the morning. I tried to put them in one of those old people like pill boxes the other day, and it was like popping open. I wish I'd filmed it. It was hysterical. It was like popping open, pills are flying because there's so many, and I couldn't stuff them in there. But just the pills I take every day, the workout that I need to do every day, the meditation practices. I do release work and release work practices. Sometimes mentally, sometimes energetically, sometimes somatically, depending on what's going on, what I'm feeling. But yeah, like I'm at the point where now I spend the first few hours of my day just like taking care of myself. And that is a luxury. I want to acknowledge what a luxury that is. I want to acknowledge how for most of my life up to this point, I would never have had the time, the capacity, the money, any of the things to be able to spend the first 3 hours of my day taking care of myself. Little kids, I was busting my ass. I was like, I feel like I did all of that to get to this point. So we're not saying, hey, you're a bad person if you're busting your ass, taking care of little kids all the time, working all the time. You might be in that stage of life and like, that's okay. I'm trying to say, look, there's light at the end of that tunnel. And I'm so grateful to the me who did all that and hustled that hard so that I could be here at 43 years old, spending the first 3 hours of my day taking care of myself every day. That's wonderful.
And also, you can start with something.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I teach people, right? Like I have a class coming up next week because I do what I call intentional cooking, right? It's about putting your intentions, your vision into your food, right? And I do that by creating a botanical blend that I put on, it's like hot sauce. I put that shit on everything, right? Like, so then I say my mantra and I do the thing. And so I had been doing this for years. It was something I gave out every year to people who came to my annual New Year's brunch. And this year I decided to teach a class so that people could understand how to do this. So then when they run out, they can make more, right? Like they created their own blend. It's customized. They have the thing. It's virtual. It's fun. I'm excited to be doing that, but it's something that I do every day. And it's something that someone can do right now, right? Like right now, while you're cooking dinner, while you're making breakfast, while you're like doing whatever, you can decide what the life is that you are creating that you want. And you're like, put those intentions, because each botanical, each herb, each spice, all the things have a metaphysical property, right? That you can then take that, put that in there and say your thing and put that in your pot right now, right? Every day before your feet hit the ground, you can go through mindfulness. You can decide what your body feels like, what you want it to feel like, and be grateful that your eyes opened that, today to be able to do whatever it is that you have to do. So even if you can't, because if you took 3 hours to start your day, it would give you like an hour and a half of sleep because you're only getting 5 hours right now. Then I say, yes, you can't do that. I would say, no, don't give over that much time because you need it. And also, you can fit it in all kinds of apps are amazing. Insight Timer app is an amazing app. I'm just going to start putting in meditations on that app, but it's free. There's a paid version that you get all these extra classes and all this kind of extra stuff, but there's a free version where boom, it's right on your phone. The Calm app is another one, right? Like that kind of stuff. Those are things that you can find a way, because what's important to remember is you are important enough to do it for yourself now, and not think that, oh, when I'm successful enough, I will be able to take 3 hours like Michelle does and how Robyn says she's doing, and she encourages her very successful clients to do, then I'll be able to do that. And I'm saying, yeah, no, don't do that. Don't wait. Do it now. And then just know that eventually the practice will build and you will be able to give over more time to practice and less time to the other stuff. But right now you got to create the practice.
100%. Like, don't get me wrong. I didn't go from doing nothing to doing 3 hours a day.
No, I just want people to understand. It's like, we started somewhere. Like, do it now.
It builds up over time,
Yes.
just like anything else. You start to build it, and when you're able to get more in that space, that calm headspace, your work doesn't take as much time. You're not being busy just to be busy.
Yes.
We're working very intentionally too. I get done now in 3-4 hours a day. Well, it used to take me 8-10 hours a day because I was spending so much time just spinning my wheels, freaking out,
Right.
asking different people about different, instead of just, oh, I know what needs to happen, and we just glide into it and we just get it done, and then it's done, and then it's dinner time, and that's cool. Like, I really work from like noon to 5, most days, or somewhere in that window, and then cool. But that comes from that experience and that build up. I want to go back to what you were saying about being intentional with the food. I love that. I too am, as a woo-woo person, I bless my food. I clear my food of whatever was in it before. I thank my food. I bless my food. I put the intention into my food to nourish my body and my health. One thing that's been really interesting to me lately is, for years we fought against skeptics and cynical people saying, oh, this woo-woo shit, it's not scientific. Like, what your rocks have magical powers, like whatever. And now science is starting to catch up, and the things are starting to convene. There are studies coming out now showing how the molecular structure of water changes when you put different intention into water, how plants respond differently when you put intention into your plants. And so it's like we're the skeptics. We have evidence now that we can say, no, look, this is real. They're proving this. The water changes. If I bless my water before I drink it, the structure has actually changed. We can prove that now before I put that into my body. Not to be like, in your face, but it does feel a little validating, right? After so many years.
Well, I love it. That's why I love Brene Brown, right? So, because every time a new book comes out, because she's done some other new study and she's done all this research, and then you go, see, it's the thing I told you, right? I love science. I love it when science proves the woo, right? It's kind of like what I did when I wrote the book. The book is about how to think about using stones and crystals in your life. It's not like a giant tome of all the stones and crystals. It's really about how to think about incorporating them in your life so that you don't just have them, right? So people go, oh, I'm really into stones. And I go, really? Great. Tell me about it. And then they're like, what? I have them. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do? And there's no do, it's just have, right? And I'm like, well, there's so much more. So what I said was, here's the thing. You can believe in the vibration, right? Like, everything is vibration. Science has proven that everything has a vibration. Everything has its own frequency. So you can understand the science of possibly connecting vibrationally to something else that's also giving off vibration, right? And if you see a crystal, know that that crystal is intentionally for blah, blah, name a thing. Rose quartz is compassion, right? Every time you see that, you think thoughts of being compassionate, right? You think thoughts of being a compassionate person. It reminds you every time you see it. So even if that crystal isn't compassion, right? It is an intention of compassion. You have already created the connection so that now you've created the thing anyway. So it doesn't matter if you believe all the woo. You don't have to understand that there are people who talk to rocks. If you believe people talk to dogs, I don't understand why you can't think that people talk to rocks. But okay. So if you don't believe that part and you don't believe this part, but you understand that things have vibration, all things have vibration that is measurable, and you can train your mind to connect a thought to an object, then you can work with crystals anyway. Because now now someone walks in your office and you've got a giant rose quartz sitting on your desk, and you see them and you know you're about to have a really hard conversation with them, and you can see that rose quartz and you can go, ooh, and boom, it drops you right into compassion. So now you're ready to have a compassionate conversation with somebody, whether the rose quartz made you feel more compassionate or not.
Yeah, the unconscious mind is so responsive to signs and symbols, and being able to intentionally create that in your life becomes so important. It's like, what is my shortcut to thinking the things I want to think, feeling the things that I want to feel, being who I want to be in the world? How do I start to create that, and then by proxy intentionally create my reality? So Robyn, is getting on to her client for saying, or her friend, right, for saying a bunch of negative things, because when you focus on the negative, you're creating a negative reality. People get so triggered, especially friends, especially the people who aren't clients and haven't like paid us.
Yes. They're like, don't give me that woo shit. This is real. Okay.
No, this is the truth. And like, why can't you see the truth the way that I see the truth? And it's like, well, that's your perspective. But if I bring in like, hey, your truth is different than my truth, is different than Robyn's truth, is different than anybody's truth or perspective, that can be a very triggering concept for people. They can even start to say, oh, you're gaslighting me.
Right. Yes. I get to feel what I want to feel. So this is the thing. When people push back against things, when I'm saying things to them like this, it's like, well, yes, I understand. This is something that you are experiencing in your life right now. And also, that does not mean that you cannot also be in peace, right? Like things they can exist simultaneously, right? It's like, sure, I understand that the unknown can be scary, and we like to rely on what we know. And that's why I always say that I love smart people, and they are the ones that take the longest to help shift, because they have to trust without knowing. And that space of surrender is something I get to love people through. And I love it when the thing happens, right? Like you can see it on their face. I get the text, right? Like, oh my God, the thing, because I'm like, yes, because they have to, you can't, control is an illusion, right? Like that's part of the reason why people get so afraid. So it's that expansion and evolution of self, and that allowing for the knowing without knowing, right? Like I know that there is something beyond what I know. That's why I say I love the word illimitable. It's the word that I use. It's my business name, Illimitable You. I'm always talking about being illimitable. And people can't say it, and they don't know why I continue to use it. And I have a friend's like, why don't you just say limitless? And I'm like, because I don't want the word less in it when I'm talking about people. When I learned the word illimitable, I was in an abundance class with my friend, Reverend Paula Langathrian, and she taught me this word, and I was like, what? And I looked it up, and it literally means unable to limit, right? It doesn't mean without limits. Like without limits still doesn't say, it means that there is no way to actually limit you, and you're understanding that the only limit is whatever you understand, right? Then by that expansion versus growth is much more directional. Expansion's in all directions simultaneously. If you were going to allow yourself to expand, you were going to have to know that you don't know where you're expanding to, because you don't even know it's there, right? So there has to be this belief of something more. That's how everybody started a business anyway. The reason you started a business is because you believed in something more than whatever you were experiencing when you started, right? So, and you had no idea what that more was. Even whatever you made up, you could have had the most perfect business plan ever, but it's all a made up lie, just because you don't know what's going to happen. So the expansion and belief of moreness is what I invite people to all the time. And it's this wonderful gift that we get to help people through, I think.
Absolutely. And I love you bringing up, look, the smarter you are, the more active the conscious mind is, the more it's fighting this and it wants to know everything. And I'll point out, look, if I had a book of my life that told me for the rest of my life every single thing that was going to happen, page by page, paragraph by paragraph, I wouldn't want that book. That would be horrible. It would ruin all the fun. And there are probably some things that would be really scary and depressing in there. That
Then you're like, well, never mind.
When
It's
somebody
Grover.
dies or this is when I get sick or I don't want to know. I don't want to know. There is so much freedom in finally accepting that you do not know everything and that you cannot know everything, and starting to trust that there are forces out in the universe that not only know more than you know, but that are there to support your growth and expansion. I think if you think of yourself like I'm a little kindergartner on the spiritual plane, and there are, whether you want to think of them as beings, spirits, energies, God, universe, source, whatever, there is something out there that's bigger than me, that's smarter than me, that knows more than me, but that wants me to learn and wants me to succeed and is supporting me in that. That feels so wonderful to me. I feel supported and held like a little child.
Well, and it always says yes, right? It's like whatever you want, it always says yes. It's always a yes. So that's how you get through some of those, like, wait, how did I get here? And it's like, well, you said all that stuff, so I thought that's what you wanted. But it's like, so maybe you might not want to keep saying all those things you don't want to happen. So what I love, there's this phrase that just keeps playing in my head for the last few weeks, and that you are the drop in the ocean, right? And you are also the ocean in the drop, right? So everything that is, you are part of everything that is, but everything that is also part of you. So if you know that there is this consciousness greater than the consciousness that you can connect, that you can consciously connect to, knowing that you are part of that and it is part of you, means that you already have everything you need in order to make use of it, to align with it, to be in alignment with it, because you already, that unity already exists. And it's really simply allowing it to reveal itself to you more and more and more deeply and more expansively in a way that is more supportive, because it always wants to support you.
That's so beautiful. I'm just breathing that in right now. And I can talk to you for hours. It's so soothing. I hope everyone feels soothed and better and more supported after listening to this, but we are out of time. Robyn, where can people find you on the internet if they want to learn more about you and your work?
I am Goddess of Joy everywhere you look. So I'm Goddess of Joy on Instagram. My YouTube channel is Goddess of Joy. My Facebook is Goddess of Joy RVCB, right? Because I'm Robyn Vi Carpenter Briscoe. So Goddess of Joy is everywhere you could be able to find me. And if you want the books, Let's Get Stoned, it's available easily on Amazon. Or you can hit me up and I'll, sign you a copy. You buy it from me and I'll sign you a copy. But I'm a Goddess of Joy anywhere you look.
Wonderful. Robyn, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a joy to have you on the show.
Goddess of Joy Substack, my new Substack.
Don't forget the Goddess of Joy Substack. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you next time.